What happens inside a woman's mind when you suddenly vanish from her life without explanation? The psychological impact is far more complex than most men realize, and understanding these 7 emotional stages could completely change how you handle relationships forever. When someone important disappears from our lives, it triggers a cascade of emotions that psychologists have studied extensively. For women, this experience often follows a predictable pattern that reveals deep truths about attachment, self-worth, and human connection. Whether you're currently going through this situation or want to prevent causing this pain in the future, these insights will transform your perspective on modern relationships. The first emotion women experience is complete shock and disbelief. Imagine having a normal conversation with someone on Tuesday, then receiving absolute silence for days or weeks afterward. The mind struggles to process this sudden shift because it violates our basic expectations of human behavior. She'll replay your last interaction countless times, searching for clues she might have missed. This isn't paranoia or overthinking, it's the brain's natural attempt to make sense of an abrupt change in communication patterns. During this phase, she might send follow-up messages or try calling, not because she's desperate, but because her mind needs closure to move forward. The uncertainty creates a psychological loop that's incredibly difficult to break without information. Next comes an overwhelming flood of self-doubt and personal questioning. When someone disappears without explanation, women often turn the blame inward, wondering what they did wrong or how they misread the situation. This response stems from socialization patterns that teach women to take responsibility for relationship dynamics. She'll analyze every word she said, every action she took, searching for the moment she supposedly ruined things. This internal criticism can be devastating to self-esteem, especially if she was developing genuine feelings. The absence of explanation forces her mind to create its own narrative, and unfortunately, that narrative often casts her as the villain in her own story. The third emotional stage brings intense confusion mixed with desperate hope for clarification. The logical part of her brain knows something has changed, but without clear communication, she's left guessing about your intentions. Maybe you're dealing with family issues, work stress, or personal problems that have nothing to do with her. This confusion creates emotional whiplash because she's simultaneously preparing for rejection while hoping for reconciliation. One moment she's accepting that it's over, the next she's convincing herself you'll explain everything soon. This mental back and forth is exhausting and prevents her from processing the situation clearly. Then comes the anger phase, which many men don't anticipate or understand. This isn't irrational fury, it's a healthy emotional response to being treated poorly. The anger serves a protective function, helping her recognize that disappearing without explanation is disrespectful behavior that she doesn't deserve. However, this anger often gets directed inward as self-criticism before it's properly directed outward toward the situation. She might feel guilty for being angry, wondering if she has the right to feel upset about your disappearance. This internal conflict between justified anger and self-doubt creates additional emotional turmoil that compounds the original hurt. The fifth emotion is profound sadness and grief for what was lost. Even if your connection was brief, she had invested emotional energy and built hopes around the potential relationship. When you disappear, she's not just losing your presence, she's losing the future possibilities she had imagined. This grief is complicated because she's mourning something that wasn't fully developed yet. It's the sadness of lost potential, unfulfilled connection, and dreams that will never be realized. This type of loss can feel more painful than ending a defined relationship because there's no clear framework for processing it. The sixth emotional response is a deep sense of personal rejection that affects her self-worth. Your disappearance sends an unspoken message that she wasn't worth a simple explanation or basic courtesy. This perceived rejection can trigger insecurities about her attractiveness, personality, or value as a person. Even confident women struggle with this aspect because rejection through silence feels more personal than direct communication. At least with honest conversation, she can maintain her dignity and learn from the experience. Disappearing denies her that opportunity and leaves her questioning fundamental aspects of herself. Finally, she experiences a profound loss of trust in her judgment and future relationships. If she couldn't see your disappearance coming, how can she trust her instincts with the next person? This erosion of confidence affects her ability to be vulnerable and open in future connections. The trust damage extends beyond romantic relationships into friendships and professional connections. Once someone learns that people can simply vanish without warning, it becomes harder to invest emotionally in any new relationship. Understanding these 7 emotional stages doesn't mean you should stay in situations that aren't working for you. However, it does highlight why basic communication and respect matter so much in human connections. A simple, honest conversation can prevent weeks or months of emotional turmoil for another person. If you're someone who tends to disappear when relationships get complicated, consider how a brief explanation could dramatically reduce the psychological impact on others. And if you're currently experiencing someone's disappearance, remember that their behavior reflects their communication skills and emotional maturity, not your worth as a person. The next time you're tempted to ghost someone or wondering why someone's disappearance affected you so deeply, remember these 7 emotional stages and choose compassion over convenience.